Okay, hi everybody and welcome. This is POAC and it is questions for the BCBA time. We're a little late checking in, just having some technical issues, but hoping that you are all here and have some questions and some things that you'd like to share with us today. So we've been doing this BCBA chat now for a couple weeks, and with that I'm learning a lot from all of you and maybe what you're sort of going through and the areas maybe that you're struggling with. And so please, in our live comments area, let us know that you're here. Let me know, what your age your child is, and maybe we can have some ideas about age and levels and things that might help you. And then just say hi so we can see you. So today I'm going to review some areas where we just talk about, the fact that so many of you are struggling with just being able to do this, that whether you'll be able to work with your child or, we've certainly reviewed the fact that our children are kind of confused that you're now their teacher and what's kind of happening with that. So what I'm going to say though is really you can absolutely do this. This is going to be possible for you. And maybe we're going to make some changes. Maybe we're going to try to not necessarily stick with exactly what was sent from school for you to do. And when we say stick to a routine, certainly maybe that's true, but maybe we have to develop a new routine. But we're going to go over some areas that we actually found a wonderful resource, and we'll try and put this up on our Facebook page because obviously it's a really long web address here, but it's a resource that I want to review with you today because it had so many helpful tips for families of children on the autism spectrum and ways to kind of get through this process of being, oh, there you go. Great. It's going up on there now. So, just how to get through being confined in this area, maybe how to keep your children busy and off of the constantness of the internet and video gaming or something to that effect. And so I hope some of the ideas they have will help you. I'm going to go through some of them and just give some of my insight onto, the effectiveness of these. And so when we talk about that schedule that we're trying to get your child into or trying to get them involved in, maybe just using your own technology will be a better way to do it versus trying to develop some picture activity schedule that's Velcroed and, has all these other things. But instead, look at some of the apps that they have that are out there. And so one of those apps is called a First Then app. And it's just that. Many of us use this when we're teaching children on the autism spectrum. Many of us use this with our typically developing children. You have to eat dinner before you can have dessert. It's a pretty simple principle. But this is one that you can use where it can actually upload pictures that you have and be able to show. First you have to do X and then you can get, the iPad, or then you can go outside, those sorts of things. And this resource really does provide a great variety of choices in that some obviously are for a fee, but they also seem to have found some free choices for everybody. And there are some other, now that everybody is kind of stuck inside, I know some companies are offering things that maybe weren't free in the past, but they're free now, right? So, which is kind of great. And sometimes all you need is a printer. And so it's not like you have to go out and buy curriculum or go out and buy supplies or go out and do anything. And in this same resource that we've put the address up there for you, there's some simple things just like this. I happen to love this one because it's Paw Patrol, and I have two grandbabies now that are both Paw Patrol fanatics. So, but they have other ones that are a little bit older in age. They just kind of look like Postit Notes. They've given a couple of choices in here for you to be able to use. But when we're trying to tell somebody that they have to get off of the electronics, this might be a way for you to be able to do it and just count down and then say they have to hit the power off button. Some of you may need something a little bit more intrusive. There are some apps now that you can shut off your your iPads by way of your iPhones automatically. And once that happens, it can set a timer that it can't be turned back on without a passcode or without a certain amount of time that has passed. Those are all ways for something to happen. And with that, I think one of the nice things about it is it's just kind of done. They're not going to be able to turn it back on. Now, granted, for some of our children, that may cause some extreme behavioral challenges. I'm not asking you to do it with those children. I'm asking you to just do it for somebody that needs that gentle reminder every time. I said, turn it off. I said, turn it off. And maybe it just goes off. And then that way it's like, the time is up, it's gone, as opposed to, having an argument or having to negotiate, which I think a lot of our children are really good at, negotiating their needs. So, and then this was one where I was looking at it and I just sort of thought about some of you that have been asking some questions about your child and their challenging behaviors, and maybe new challenging behaviors that are coming up because of this situation, because mom is the teacher or because dad is home all of the time and just not used to seeing that, or vice versa, whatever the roles are here. And you didn't have a behavior intervention plan in the past at school, or maybe you did have a behavior intervention plan, but because the conditions are nothing like school, it's not the same. You might need to create something that's just specific for you, or just specific for this particular situation of the time that somebody has to spend sitting at a table doing schoolwork. And again, this is something you can print off from this resource that we've posted for you, but it just says at the end of at the end of the 5-time intervals, circle whether you practice the target behavior skill. After the 5th or last time interval, determine if you get the reward. You can make that target behavior whatever it is you want. So let's just say the target behavior is sitting at the dining room table. Right, not even doing work, just sitting, and make it simple, right? So the first skill is to just get them to the table, so sitting at the table, and maybe it's sitting at the table for 30 seconds, right? And if they do it one time, 30 seconds, you would circle the happy face on number 1. They do it another 30 seconds, the happy face number 2. So this total 5 would only be 2.5 minutes, right? I always make sure I get my math right. Would only be 2.5 minutes, but after 5 smiles, what did I earn my reward? Yes. What is it that you got? And then, possibly offer them something. And then just increase the amount of time that each interval is, or increase what needs to be done, not just sitting at the table, but sitting at the table and completing a task that you would want them to do. Right. So that would be another way to do it. But maybe coming up with some of these things on your own now that you're home and now that you're seeing some differences in your children that you hadn't seen before. So there's another resource here, and I'm not sure if we can get I know we can get it up on Facebook or get it up for you soon as well. But this is for you, those of you who have children that are younger and you're trying to keep them occupied. And this was put out by Teach or UNC. And these are some activities. When I tell you that they have, I think you can see there, it says ELA-100, 103, 102, and then on the other side, it says ELA 11. When I tell you they have over 100 and some ideas, they have over 100 and some ideas of ways that you can make materials at home that are just utilizing some products and things that you have. If you look down here on this ELA-15, it's like a pizza box, right? That many of us would have something similar to that. Up here is kind of a wipe box that they used, and here's a coffee can. So when we say that you can make some of these materials at home, some of those projects some of it might be making the project itself would be one of the activities. And then the other is to actually have these activities. None of these things take longer than a minute. And I know that might seem crazy to make all these things and do it, but it's really about giving your child something they can be incredibly successful with. Sit at the table, right? If we were going to say, like, hold on, let me go back for a second. If we were going to use this, I want you to sit at the table and do a task. Well, a task could possibly feel really overwhelming, but not a task that just requires you to feed Cookie Monster six cookies and then they got it. So you want to build up by using these very simple items that also have a clear beginning and a clear end to them. And then that way the child knows they're absolutely finished. So open-ended activities just have a tendency to go on, maybe sometimes too long, or maybe that's that opportunity where the child is being successful in the beginning of an open-ended activity, and then we never really quite know when to end it before they get bent out of shape or upset. So we have a tendency to maybe push it just a little too far, and next thing you know, the whole thing is gone, out the window, and we've got a crying child or a crying parent, whatever. But so what I really would like you to look at with this is just how quickly things would get done. And then that's one activity. And then you could make the next time another activity. So hopefully some of these, again, look at those ideas on that website. There's a lot of them. And then I want to focus on some areas, new areas of research that we are really understanding that for children on the autism spectrum, they are so important. And this is that area of mindfulness, which doesn't sound maybe like it's something that people in the field of ABA would be interested in, but we absolutely are. And we're hoping that we can get more and more families to use more mindfulness techniques with our children with autism, because what we know about them is they help children who have heightened states of anxiety. We know that autism is an anxiety disorder. And so if we can start to use some techniques about mindfulness with our children, then we can have a better, hopefully better outcomes. And I know that in the past, some people have used other strategies to try and get their child to be calmer. And I caution you with just some of the simple ones, like take a deep breath. For some of our children, I will caution it in that taking a deep breath really requires an understanding of what's happening inside of my body. If I say to you, take a deep breath like me, and I breathe in, you know that my lungs are filling up and that I'm taking a breath that's deeper than what I typically would. But I find sometimes with children with autism, they hear the sound that happens, and instead they kind of go, and in doing that, we are actually increasing their anxiety because they're not getting the full breath, and they're biologically, their systems are going into that more like hyperventilating type of way. So it's sort of like trying to teach them to blow their nose. It's a really challenging task when you can't show somebody what's happening on the inside of a body. But here are some apps, again, that are available using that link that we've provided to you. And I was really excited to see that Sesame Street was on there, because I know that we have some Sesame Street fans out there, and that maybe that would be of interest. And if there are any healthcare workers or BCBAs out there, anybody that has what's called an NPI number, that Headspace, although it's saying it's free and it has that little in-app money thing, my understanding is that for people with an NPI now, it is absolutely free. So they're really trying to help our healthcare workers to stay healthy in this, incredible time of craziness that we're all going through. So again, those apps are available. And then creating your own task analysis. So when I said, the title of today was You Can Do This, you absolutely can look at a skill that you would now like to teach your child. Let's just say for the longest time, you've been thinking, you'd really love for them to learn how to brush their teeth or to make their own snack, but it's just not been on the agenda. So like most of us, we just do it for them. Because that's a whole lot easier, right? We just do it for them and we make it and they're done, and and then everybody gets on with their day. But now some of us just have more time that we're home and we're spending with each other, and so it's possible for you to just make your own. So the tips within this this site that we're sending you to, or this resource that we're sending you to, really looks at how to explain this as simply as possible. So choose a task that has a definitive start and end. And so I'm going to say, here they're talking about set the table, get dressed. Pick something that you'd really like somebody to do, your child to do now. Write down the steps that go with it, right? And watch somebody else do it, or so that you can take down what they are doing, right? Give those steps to somebody that you wrote down and see if they can actually follow them to make sure they weren't missing anything. And then if you need to draw any pictures or cues, or if you can, now we can take pictures of just about anything. And then we're going to teach that task using the level of prompts that your child is going to need. And so, oh, I thought I had one up here for you guys. That was a snack one. So sorry about that. But so there's one on this website here, and it shows you just something as simple as a snack, and how to get the plate, get the items that you need, and move forward with making it. So I'm going to ask you to just pick something now that you've always wanted them to do, but make sure, just like I would tell your teachers and everybody else, make sure they have all the prerequisite skills to do that. So don't teach somebody to cut a sandwich who hasn't yet learned how to use a knife, right? So think about what it is that you'd really like your child to do, and then think about what those skills are that are need to have in order to do it, because you may have to back up and start there. But I do think it's an opportunity for many of us to, for the first time, to maybe take ownership and teach one new thing to your child while they're home. And that will certainly help us with our own confidence of dealing with all of this. Once you've had a success, I think many of you will see that this is not as hard as we think, right? So again, this is another website. If we can put this one up for you, the steps to this are about 2 pages long. I just kind of cut and pasted this part of it for you. But when we talk about those mindfulness strategies, and when we talk about some of our children who we think maybe couldn't possibly understand how to implement mindfulness, and because it might talk about, think about something, or listen to a sound that's in the room and concentrate on it. It may do a lot of these things. This is really simplified that meditation level to meditation on the soles of the feet. And I think it's really helpful. One of the things is that this has been used with children with developmental disabilities, and it's been used for people who have physical and verbal aggression in an attempt to help them to calm their bodies during these times when they feel like they are not going to be successful, right? And how to get them to sit down and think about the soles of their feet. It's a distraction, certainly, but it is also a type of meditation to get them to calm. And so what I will also say to you is, we're not going to teach them while they're mid aggressive behavior, right? That's kind of not going to work. But if you have a child who can be physically or verbally aggressive, teach them during a downtime when there's nothing else to do, and teach them the process. This goes through it step by step. And so if you look at this website, or download this PDF, you will see all of the steps in order to be able to talk somebody through it. And so I would say download this, and then walk your child through it during a really happy time. And then if you do find that they're being somewhat verbally aggressive, just ask them to, again, do this again with them, and sit down with them and walk them through it, to try and give them this strategy, or this self-calming strategy. And then there's an article out there. There's a couple of articles out there, and I think something that I know I've heard Gary and Simone say in other presentations as well, when we talk about this whole autism thing, and kind of how it changes our worlds a bit. You have to take care of yourself, right, before you can help your child. And what I can tell you in the research that I have done is that that's just not something somebody tells you because they think that, that's a nice thing to say. There's actually research to support that if parents of children who have autism and other developmental disabilities are trained in mindfulness themselves, right? So mindful parenting decreases aggression and increases social behavior in the child with developmental disabilities. There's almost like a transference there of kind of what happened. And so really, if you feel like you have a child who may be, my two children, I would say, fall on the autism spectrum. They are profoundly affected by their autism. I would have a really hard time with even the meditation on the soles of your feet with my son Austin, and trying to get him to understand that. But by learning this mindfulness strategies myself, what the research has shown is that these behaviors decrease in our children. And maybe even in this time now that we're having, we can better understand this. As we've been saying all along, our children are confused by this new role that their mom or their dad has, playing teacher, or educator in some way, very different from the way that they have in the past. I am sure that mom or dad are also exhibiting some signs of anxiety that their children are picking up on. And so now there's this, almost kind of crash about to happen. We have children who are already anxious and in a position where they're not used to seeing their parent, do this, and they're kind of losing trust in the situation. And when I say losing trust, it's like, wait a minute, you're acting very differently than you did before by making me do this. Then you have parents who are anxious because we really want our children to succeed. We really want to make sure that they don't have any challenging behaviors as they're going through this. And we want them to be very successful. So that is increasing the anxiety on our side. If one of us can kind of come down, right, a little bit, then we can help the other one to come down as well. So the research is truly showing that if a caregiver can be trained in mindfulness practices, that has a direct effect on our children that we are either living or working with, and how their behaviors are changing. And so one of them is just it's a parent-led mindfulness intervention, and the parents are being taught through telehealth these mindfulness strategies. So if you have that opportunity to be able to be a part of something like that, I would absolutely take advantage of it in this time when telehealth is, everywhere now, and everybody is doing it. And also some of the insurance companies and all are lifting some of the copays and other requirements during this time to if telehealth is what is needed in order to keep all of us safe. So take advantage of those if you can find them, right? And then I just want to open it up. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions, but if we could, I'm just going to go back to hold on. There you go. That's what I wanted to do. Thank you. So I just wanted to open it up and see if we have anybody that has anything that they'd like to discuss. And then if not, I would really like to point out as well that some of the things that we're talking about here, and when we say that you can do it, you need to access the resources and look at some of these things that are going on. And I feel like some of us are just so overwhelmed by what is about to happen or what's been happening that we're not accessing these things to be able to do better, right? To be able to do better. So if you go on that Teach website and you find some of those activities, make them, do them. File folder activities are probably one of the easiest things that we can do with young children, and they're just simple matching things. If you already have a matching game, you can put half of the pictures on a file folder and then have them match them. We want to find things that are short and sweet and done and over, so that both parties are successful. We want the parent who's doing the teaching to feel as though they were successful, and we want the child to not only feel as if they were successful, but that it's over. And so that would be something that I would say, don't try to do an entire worksheet, or don't try and do all of the packet that was sent home to you in one sitting, but instead try to do really short, brief moments and have multiple moments of success with your child versus having these longer, drawn out portions of the day. Okay. I don't know if I can't. Hold on one second. All right. So I don't know if we have any questions. I don't see any right now. This will certainly be up on our Facebook page, and you'll be able to access it. If you do have any questions, I would just say write to us, and it's info@ poac.net. And if there's anything that we can help you with, if there's any ideas that you would have for some upcoming conversations with the BCBA, and I would also tell you this coming Tuesday night, we have go onto our website at poac.net, and there'll be a link there if you're interested in Hillary Freeman and myself will be doing a workshop about IEPs, the educational process through all of this, special education needs for individuals with autism during this, pandemic, and how you might be able to get some more information about that. Okay. So I thank you, everybody, and have a great day.